And of course, the people you deal with when you sell your wares are an entirely different set of people to those that then want to put the contracts in place.
Yeah. Well, I think there's probably been an awful lot of training in AI models on legal documents.
So you think, am I really, is it me? Because I shouldn't have to be educating this large manufacturer about how to do their terms and conditions. Surely they've got in-house legal that knows all this sort of stuff.
A lot of people will be reviewing terms and conditions with AI. A lot of people are using AI to come up with statement of work. A lot of people are using AI to capture minutes and things like that.
If you take the output from AI at face value and just use that as your answer, you've completely lost the practice of critical thought anyway, but also you might be passing on some absolute howlers that you don't actually agree with. I had another management lesson from my cat last night.
Wasn't expecting that, but yeah.
Do you remember a couple of weeks ago?
The mouse.
I said, because it kept bringing mice to the bedroom, I realised that I couldn't get angry with it because that's what its job description included and what its training had been built for. So anyway, it asked it politely if it might refrain from bringing mice, and it did. It stopped bringing mice. However, in the week I had another gift. It was a bat.
Right.
So we're still going for mammals.
I like bats.
Not by the time it arrived in the bedroom.
No. Oh, in the bedroom. Wow, nice.
Yeah. Oh no, it comes at 4 a.m.
Oh wow.
It does a particularly weird meow to announce its arrival with its present, whatever it is, and presents it to you. So I got a bat, and I've seen it pluck a bat out of the air before. Incredible, last summer, because bats fly pretty fast, right? And it swooped close to the ground, and he just popped his claw up and grabbed it. So anyway, then I said, very good. You know. I understand that's also in the job description. But if you wouldn't mind, no more bats. Thank you very much. So last night, I got a chick. I guess there's a lot of nests around at the moment. So it bought me a chick.
Wow.
So
you know, like at the stories where people train a crow or raven to go and find money and then bring it to them.
I hadn't heard that story, but it sounds very ingenious.
So they train them to find like dollar bills and things like that on the streets, and they go around and they find them, they bring them back and they give them a treat for it, and they realise that they're going to get the reward if they find this thing.
Well, I think that's where I'm at. I'm rewarding the cat by a little pat. So I've decided there's no point chastising the cat. It's doing what's natural. I think
you've,
But then this morning, so I disposed of this poor little old chick, which was gone, went back to bed. Within less than 10 minutes, meowing starts again, another chick. And this is where we need a trigger warning, but unfortunately this one hadn't quite yet expired.
Oh, right. So you had to...
So that was a rather more of a traumatic... Disposal dispatch, yes. Whatever. I don't want to go into all the details of that. But I've now got to clean the carpet, as he's left a bit of a trail of the mess. So there you go, management lessons according to the cat.
I'm not sure what the management lesson is. That don't have a cat is probably the...
Well, that's probably one.
It's probably the main one.
But if you're going to buy what's that old phrase? Don't buy a dog and bark yourself. Don't buy a cat and moan when you get brought mice, bats and birds. That's what they do.
Is that the right analogy?
I don't know.
Don't buy a cat and then go and hunt your own bats.
No, don't take on somebody with a set of skills and then bemoan it when they use those skills.
No, true.
That was my take on it.
That's the take on it.
So what have you learned from the world of bees this week?
I learned a lot about bees. I don't know
signed up yet?
I don't know if I can get on it. I think it's sold out. But I went to the open day.
You went to the open day?
I went to the open day. It was absolutely fascinating.
Wow.
I could talk at great length about bees. But I've gone from the very small to the very big this week. So on Thursday, not big bees, no. I went to visit my friend's farm on Wednesday evening, who has an organic regenerative farm.
Easy for you to say.
And he took me. I got to herd some cows. I turned up and he's like, "We've just had some cows delivered."
Right.
Not cows. They're boys, so they're not cows, are they? They're whatever the boy
bulls.
Version of bulls. And so I got to help sort them out. I had my hunter wellies and barber jacket on.
Oh, I bet you got right the part.
Didn't have a clue what was going on. I just sort of pointed at a cow and went, "Go that way."
That would be a cow or a boy anyway.
So in my head, it felt a bit like Yellowstone. I felt like I was on the ranch doing cowboy stuff.
Did you have a wide-brimmed hat?
No, I didn't. But we went out on the quad bike into the herd. He took me into the herd. He's got 200 head of cattle.
Wow. And
the thing that he does, he keeps them in. He's got about a 3-hectare field. He's got about 40 of them. And so the grass grows up really high. And there's 26 different types of grass and clover and things.
26 is a very precise count.
Yeah,
species count.
Species count. Something like that. And they munch on all the grass, and then every 2 days he moves them to a new field. Yeah. And they go around that cycle. And it's very regenerative and all that.
Fertilising as they go.
But yeah, driving into a herd of cows, I've never done that before.
No. You got to trust on the fact that they're going to get out your way. I mean, they're not that clever.
They were like all over it. Because they thought it was time to move field. And he says they get really excited when they move field.
Yeah.
And so they were jumping around and following us around the fields and licking me and all sorts. It's quite an experience.
Licking you?
So I thought, sure okay.
Bulls licking me. And I presume they were young bulls. They weren't like the big ones that looked like they could crush a tank.
Oh, some of them were like up at the kind of 800 kilo kind of mark.
That's a big cow, right?
Yeah, some big old cows.
Kilos.
Yeah, they're big boys. So anyway, tonight I shall sample their wares.
Beef tonight.
I will be the cat tonight.
Yes. Oh, we see what he did there. Brings it back in. It's the payoff.
Lands it.
Well done.
Lands it.
Right. Well, if we moved on from bees, then I mean, I go from bees to beef.
Bees to beef. I've still got a lot to say about bees, but conscious of time and all that.
Yeah, we better come back. We could have a bee installment.
Yeah, we'll come back to the bees.
Bee roll.
Apparently, I'm not allowed a hive in the garden. Well, legally, I am. You can have a hive in your garden,
but not in terms of the kitchen
I want my daughter to move out.
Oh, I see.
So not for now.
So you can have to have a cow instead.
Yeah. So I've got 3 head of cattle coming tomorrow.
Don't tell her. Right, podcast time. Hello and welcome to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow, where every week we try and come up with something interesting and useful for owners and managers of small and medium-sized enterprises. And it's me, Dave Parry, and him, Richard Buckle.
Hello.
Hello from me, and hello.
Him.
What was that phrase? That was Morecambe and Wise, wasn't it?
Was it?
It's good evening from me, good evening from him, something like that. So what are we doing this week? What episode number are we on?
175, I think.
175. There you go. That's 725s.
There we go.
It's kind of a roundish number, isn't it?
Well, if you add them all up, you get 13, which is a prime.
Oh, you haven't done this, have you?
No, I haven't actually.
175. Yeah, there you go. Well, 175 sounds like a round. If we'd got to just 25, we'd be celebrating our quarter century. To have 175, it means we're 6 months away from the big 2 ton.
Good innings.
Double century, yeah.
Shall I recap previous
have you? I was
episodes?
wondering if you'd made a note, actually. How did we get here? It was 172.
172 was how AI tools help scale your business. I mean, that was a kind of a deep dive into some of the HubSpot AI tools.
Oh, the prospecting agent, the customer agent, the data agent, data quality.
Smart properties, etc., etc.
Data enrichment, all that stuff.
173 was on loneliness in leadership.
It's lonely at the top.
Lonely at the top.
There was some research that you dug up, hasn't there? That was actually quite interesting, based on UK and Indonesian companies. But we talked a bit about that, didn't we, in terms of... And in fact, we had some feedback.
We had some feedback on that. So I turned into that kind of radio DJ, late night radio DJ. Just, this is going out to all of the lonely business owners out there.
Oh, you do good at that. The Bob Harris voice.
It's my disco bingo.
I spoke to somebody else earlier in the week as well who'd been listening to all of our podcasts since Christmas. So thank you very much for the feedback she gave us. So she quite liked the variety, but even the subjects that didn't quite appeal, she found them listenable too. I think that's praise. I'm going to take it as praise anyway.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Even the boring ones, they're okay.
And
well, that was 173,
and 174 was the wisdom economy.
The wisdom economy, well trailed in the week before. You dropped that in 173. So the wisdom economy was about the fact that if you're an old geezer, there's hope for you yet.
Yes,
because your experience equals wisdom will suddenly become more valuable in an AI world.
As knowledge becomes ubiquitous, wisdom becomes more valuable.
In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Exactly.
Etc. Okay, so that brings us to the roundish sort of number of 175. Are we going to do a big sort of 180?
Probably
5 episodes time.
We could get there. Like
just to round off our
theme or something.
Yeah, round off the darts, and we'll say goodbye to darts themes forever then.
It's gone, isn't it? It's in the rearview mirror then.
Choose something else.
Let's make a bigger board.
We need a game with higher scores.
Cricket.
Yeah. It gets too
well. It's just double century, isn't it? Really kind of.
Yeah. Double Nelson, 222. So 175. Now today's subject, if you've got this far, having already read the title of the episode, then good on you. because it's got the potential of being a bit of a snooze fest, doesn't it? People don't like talking about serious stuff. They want to hear about all the juicy, salesy and all personal stuff. But it's not legalistic, but it's commercial, isn't it? We're going to talk about not just about terms and conditions, contracts, but about the relationship between a supplier and a customer, as that topic is raised. And we chose it this week because, as it happens twice in 1 week, we've had the same, I'm not going to say argument, but debate with a large prospect looking to take us on. Big company. And of course, the people you deal with when you sell your wares are entirely different set of people to those that then want to put the contracts in place.
Yep.
So it's not as if you're going to lose the contract through this process. The decision's been taken, supplier's been selected, scope's been agreed and all that. Then you get handed over to the procurement department or in-house legal, and that's when you run the risk of the wheels falling off a little bit.
Yep. So I think as well, I was reflecting on this, and maybe I should be careful with my words.
Couch your terms here.
But just to bring an AI piece into this, I think probably 5 years ago when you were presented with a big old document on T's and C's and whatnot.
You had two options.
It was, you either slogged it out, well, 3 options, isn't it? Just sign it.
Yeah, that was one of my 2.
Hope for the best. Yeah. Slog through, read it yourself and pretend to understand what actually going on.
I wouldn't have done that one, no.
Or get a solicitor
go to the lawyer.
Go to the lawyer to get them to read it for you.
Spend your money, yeah.
But there's this new thing in the world called AI.
Is there? What does AI stand for?
AI, artificial intelligence, apparently. But it's actually quite good.
I did know that, just in case anybody listening.
That's like, I don't mean to patronise you. That means to talk down to. But yeah, it turns out that AI is actually pretty good at reviewing contracts.
It turns out, yeah. It doesn't seem to have the same hallucination problem. You're not asking it open-ended questions in a vacuum. You're giving it very clear input. Yeah. Which you may come up with a daft comment on, but it's...
Well, I think there's probably been an awful lot of training in AI models on legal documents.
Well, there's a lot of written stuff, you're right.
And there's a lot of precedents, and there's a lot of material out there. And it's able, I generally tend to take the approach of explain this to me like I'm 5. And then I start to understand what it's actually saying.
Yeah, it's interesting how you prompt it when you give it that. But sure enough, in these occasions, I took your option 2, slog it out, but with AI as an assistant. So that's the 4th option now. And we've never really had to go to lawyers to get them checked before. Normally they're the first option. You think, well, they must be good enough. Either that or accept ours, and they won't accept ours, we read theirs, and you give it a quick skim through. But AI is picking out a lot more nuance to them than I would have ever done from a personal read-through, not being a lawyer and all.
We should probably caveat all this as well with this. This is without prejudice conversation.
This is not legal advice.
This is not legal advice, and you should probably...
It's almost the opposite of legal advice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go and get a lawyer to give you proper advice.
So you should, if in doubt, go and seek professional legal advice. And
be careful what AI tells you. In fact, even now when you ask AI either a medical question or a legal question, I've seen it prefacing the answer with this is not official advice and you should go and see your physician/lawyer. But nevertheless, it's been useful. And in a bit like we talked about last week, using AI as a brainstorming partner, if you are lonely in business, there's no harm in using it to at least ask questions or suggest questions that you should then ask. Yeah. Or ask you, are you happy with this? It's not giving you definitive answers. So we did that, and I think a couple of learning points have come from this. One which I'm interested to explore next time you and I have this discussion with a larger company. How about if you said to them, if you are going to put us through your full procurement process, including getting us to review terms and conditions, and also we've had to fill in supplier questionnaires, IT compliance questionnaires, modern slavery statements, evidence of insurance and all that stuff. I reckon there's one client we're still yet to get the PO for because of all this process, but it's probably taken me 5 or 6 hours this week just to go through all these forms and paperwork. So what happens if you said, well, we're going to charge you for that? Now they may say, we should put in the price. So, well, when we deal with SMEs, we don't have this cost, so that's not what's normally in a price. So we're going to put another half a day or a day in just to be onboarded by you. Now, because it's not discretionary for them. They can't say, oh, okay, don't bother then. They've got to, haven't they? They've got to follow their systems. But I don't think that people who are procuring our services, often chief execs or sales professionals, marketing professionals, they don't have to go through this process.
No.
And they may have heard that, some suppliers complain it's a bit heavy-handed, but, you'll get there. And once you're on the list, you're all right. That's what they normally tell you. But they don't tell you it's going to take you the best part of a day to get it all agreed and done.
Yeah, I don't know if the approach is just you should be... I suppose if it's big company to big company, there's people that do that for a job, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Small company to big company, it's probably... You should be grateful for the...
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, but that's...
Well, I think that's right. That's their attitude.
That's the prevailing
And actually,
wind.
some big companies can be a bit of a sod to work for.
There's new legislation coming out, proposed, isn't there?
I heard something. I didn't hear the detail. What was that
around
about?
Payment terms for large companies to small companies.
Right. Have we not already got something supposedly in place?
I thought there was something in place,
observed.
but they were, giving it more teeth or something.
I think large companies have to report on their payment performance. We used to do that for a couple of large clients, didn't we? But it only applied to the over 250 employee non-SME market. So maybe they're bringing that down a bit. Good.
So, yeah.
So what? So apart from the cost and the time, having got over that bit, I then, trying the AI thing, started to put through some of their standards. And the first thing that cropped up was we were being sent standard terms. Bearing in mind we do quite a bit of work for manufacturers. We get sent their standard terms that they send to their other suppliers, which implies that we're providing a product. Yeah. No, we're not. We're providing a service. Yeah. And it's amazing how many customers think that there's no real difference from a terms and conditions point of view. Oh, just send them the terms, sign up, thinking that it's got all the usual same stuff in. And of course it hasn't. I don't want to be signing off things like global recall claims and what happens if my IP is embedded in their product and I have to supply with their supplier quality manual. All these things are pretty relevant, aren't they? So then you ask them for the supplier one, and sometimes there's a pause. Have we got one, Fred? And so they send you something through. So that was the first thing. Have you got one that's actually relevant to what we're providing for you? And then when you get that, maybe it's because they use them less often, there's these glaring problems with them, which maybe I wouldn't have picked up before reading them through. But there was one, we had a long ding-dong before I even got to the terms and conditions about the non-disclosure agreement. So for a start, they sent me a non-disclosure agreement that was a one-way. So anything you learn from us, you have to keep confidential, which is fine from their point of view. But they seem to ignore the fact that in providing a service, we're actually the ones with the knowledge here. That's what they're paying for, right? And they're going to have access to some of our IP and our know-how, which, of course, we are using to provide the service to them. But we are not giving them the right to use that knowledge that they learn from procuring from us to then sell it somewhere else. They can use it for the benefit it's intended. But imagine if someone internally thought, oh, that's quite clever what they've done. I'm going to set up a little department or subsidiary who will do that as well now. You've got to protect yourself against that. So you need this two-way NDA. And I've never had anybody refuse to turn a one-way into a two-way. But maybe they're just trying it on. So we go through all this NDA thing, and there was loads of learning points in that you have to define outputs and results and all these things that, once again, a lot of boilerplate NDAs could be quite dangerous, really, in terms of what you say. And then I get to the terms and conditions, and right near the beginning of the terms and conditions, it says this agreement supersedes all previous agreements. So as AI pointed out, all that NDA you argued about yesterday, that's just been superseded because this agreement supersedes it. Especially because the NDA had obviously all the confidential clauses in it. Then you get the terms and conditions, and there's about 10 clauses in there that relate to confidentiality. So what's the point? Why do you have an NDA and then try and build some cut-down version of NDA into your terms and conditions, and then explicitly state that this supersedes that? Because all that, they've got a dedicated document.
Just put the NDA in as an appendix or something, can't you?
Well, just have it as an agreement set for the purpose. The other one is data protection. They say that you must, process data in accordance with instructions and manage personal data sensitively and all this business, keep it in the EU and ensure that all your employees are aware of confidentiality, all that sort of stuff. But that shouldn't really exist in terms and conditions. That's a whole separate data processing agreement, a DPA. Trying to do both cut-down versions of a non-disclosure and a data processing just by bunging it into terms and conditions, it's not allowing space for those ones to be done properly. So you think, am I really... Is it me? Because I shouldn't have to be educating this large manufacturer about how to do their terms and conditions. Surely they've got in-house legal that knows all this sort of stuff. And then sure enough, you put all these suggestions for changes back and they say, yeah, okay, we'll change that then. You think, all I've done is sit here with ChatGPT and challenge your supposed template. Yes,
it's one of my new hobbies is taking on
that's a fun hobby. I'd stick to the bees.
Legal professionals with ChatGPT.
Oh, legal? You mean as in practice ones, not in-house lawyers?
So far, well, in-house and practice.
Yeah.
Anyone really. So far, I'm 2 for 2. 2
for 2. Ooh. In terms of showing them up on stuff.
In terms of getting them to agree to the revisions, shall we say? So yeah,
I suppose as long as you're being reasonable about.
Well, it's the whole thing. I mean, we do a bit of work in the legal sector, and it's an interesting sector to be in at the moment, I think.
So the other lesson I learned from it is what takes precedence over what. There's often a clause that says something like, should this agreement conflict in any way with your purchase order or whatever agreement, these terms shall prevail.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that wherever that clause appears, it always favours itself. So some sort of self-protection mechanism written by the document itself. So you think, well, hang on a minute. So we're going to have some standard terms and conditions, in inverted commas, that you're giving everybody. And then we do a purchase order or a statement of work, which is clearly tailored. That's not standard, right? That's different in every case. So surely that's more likely to have the thing that relates more to this contract, because you've written it for this contract.
Yeah.
So why would you then say if there's a clash, the terms and conditions dominate? Seems the wrong way around. So sure enough, you propose it's the other way around, and they say, "Oh yeah, okay." And if you actually got a statement, you're going to give us a purchase order which says something like professional services, 10 quid or whatever. It's they never really go into much detail.
Yeah.
Or it may say professional services as per your quote or something like that. Where's the statement of work in that? How would they stand up if they actually challenged you on whether you'd done it or not? Now, you've got experience recently where you've been challenged on, hang on a minute, you haven't delivered what you said you're going to deliver. And you had to respond.
You had to respond, do what you can. But what it has made, I think, when I was chatting to somebody else this morning and saying, I think given the changes to the kind of regulatory environment in the UK business world, national insurance, minimum wage, et cetera, for some businesses, there's an awful lot more pressure now from a cash point of view, particularly if you've got reasonable headcount.
Yeah, sure.
And I think what I'm seeing in this other company, large company who sees a lot of deals as well, I won't say,
see who they are.
You won't guess who they are, but they're saying seeing a similar thing. Like there's a lot of people are, I think, trying to maybe not so much squeeze all the juice out of the pips, so to speak, but a lot more conscious of what they're getting.
Squeeze the juice out of the pips. You could squeeze the pips out, or the juice out.
Juice out.
If you squeeze the juice out,
I didn't think that I was saying that. I thought, gosh, this.
How much juice is there in pips?
Well, that's when you're really trying to extract.
So I see. That was your point.
I was like,
you've already squeezed the juice out.
You got the juice.
The orange. Now you got to get out the pips.
The juice. now you're saying, how can I get that?
Get the juice out the pips.
Grind the bones for bread. But no, I think there's a lot more pressure now, and I think there seems to be a bit of sentiment that people want longer payment terms, or they want free trials, or they want just everything.
You want something for nothing.
Whereas before it would have been a much more of a, okay, there's you've done this, you've done this. There's now seems to be, which, in one sense, that's the commercial
the sentiment
reality.
Is still there, right? They realise that if you're going to do professional work of value to them, then they pay for it, and that's fair exchange. But you're right, even though they may still agree with that personally, maybe they're being pressured externally to try and squeeze the pips.
I think we found if you do extra things, that doesn't seem to count against stuff that maybe was... we didn't actually want that.
There. Don't do stuff for free. You won't be valued.
And so, but then that does come back to, okay, well, how are you actually... are you being, we were talking about this earlier in the week, are you being a good steward of your business by saying, well, have you got good terms of business? Have we got a statement of work that's really well defined?
One of our values as a business is always surprise the client to the upside, is assumed. That's not actually in the wording. And I think for the very long-term relationships we've had and have, where we're, let's say, chairing board meetings and have been doing so for 10, 15, 20 years, then providing that extra little bit of something is worth doing. That's all part of being a long-standing partner, and it's appreciated. So I think that's good to do. What we're finding is that for some of the more transactional work, especially if someone comes on thinking we just, and I put just in inverted commas, we just want to have an onboarding of HubSpot, or just do us some, whenever they throw in just, that means don't charge me much. And it also means we're not going to have any follow-on work from this. Yep. This isn't a long-standing relationship. This is transactional. We're going to just want this. Well, then if you throw in the extras, it's not appreciated. And there's certainly no reward for you. And back to your stewardship point, are we being unfair to other customers who are paying for our time to give free stuff, usually the extras, away to the ones that don't value it?
Yeah, so I think it's just I sense a shift in the market a little bit with it. Right. So it's just back to that, be open, go into it with your eyes open, isn't it? These things.
And I think it's a lot easier to have these discussions right up front before they've even given you the purchase order. We're still exchanging these agreements, trying to establish what the relationship will be. And it's okay at that point to say, what are your payment terms? With manufacturers coming in, standard terms in inverted commas, 60 days. And our standard terms are 15 days. So sometimes you say our standard terms 15 days and they say, oh, okay then. Sometimes they say, sorry, we only do 60 days. I say, well, we're not going to work on 60 days because you want us to do all this work and you've asked for an accelerated timeline, and then we have to come compromise. So you come to a compromise. So you get a variety of responses. But then the 60 days or 15 days or 30 days isn't enough on its own. Days after what? Obviously the invoice, but when are we allowed to invoice?
Yeah.
Is that on completion? Is it on milestone payments?
Yeah.
There's a great phrase of a mobilisation payment. If you've got to spend money up front and spin up the team and do a load of pre-work, then it's okay to invoice for mobilisation payment. And quite often, if you get the right words in these things, then customers accept it.
Yeah.
If you say, well, you pay a deposit or a prepayment, they may bristle.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say, oh, no, can we have a mobilisation payment for that? And thank you to Ruth for that tip, because she spent a lot of time running big engineering consultancies, and that worked for her, and sure enough, it's worked for us. So it's not just to say how many days payment after what.
I think there's another point that just came to me as we were talking there. So we talked previously around getting AI to come up with the statement of work sometimes.
Yeah.
Because so you can put some inputs in, here's a prompt, here's a meeting, kind of come up with a statement of work, and you look over it and you go, oh, that's okay, great, put it in. And I don't know if we mentioned it last time on the podcast, but we've been going through and reviewing, partly because just this whole subject in mind, reviewing some of our statements of works. And as I was going through it, I thought, well, this actually feels okay. But if I actually put myself in the seat of someone who's going to be receiving this kind of onboarding of HubSpot or whatever, it doesn't quite have that logical flow to it. So went back and almost did it by hand and came up with a better product from it. But I think as well, back to that point about discussions up front, I think now with so many people using AI recorders in meetings, and most meetings being online, there's almost a kind of, we're having a conversation about this, the AI recorder is going to capture it, but it's all this. And it doesn't actually get documented. There's not actually then some sort of...
You mean a human documenting it?
Well, I mean, human, but almost like a form, like a ratification process almost, isn't it? Of like saying, right, okay, this is what it said. Are we all agreed now?
So approving the minutes.
Approving the minutes almost of that. There's almost an assumption that, well, we all said something and it's been recorded. There'll be some notes somewhere we can, and then one party.
I suppose as long as you can click. I was in a meeting yesterday and someone else's note taker was already in it. So mine didn't get admitted. And I was fine with that. You don't need that many. You only need one, right? So after the meeting finished, I contacted the party whose note taker was in it. Said, could you just send me through the link to the meeting notes? That'd be great. And they sent me through the AI summary and the full transcript. But I didn't get a link to the actual recording. Now, I never use that really on my own. But from time to time, it has come in handy, because you click on the link in the AI summary. So it says this. Did we really say that? What tone of voice was that said in? And you can click on it and you can go and watch it. And I didn't have that bit. And it made me realise that perhaps we should insist that our meeting note takers are in there, as even if everyone else's are, because then you've got your own record of it. Yeah. And there's no delay. Plus the fact, linking it to HubSpot was a right pain in the bahookie, because our one automatically links in and you don't even have to worry about it. Suddenly I had to email them, get it back as an attachment, download that, attach it to the file. It all became a very manual workflow. So you're right, though. Meeting notes are...
I think it's another example where, we're talking about terms and conditions, but there's a lot of people will be reviewing terms and conditions with AI. A lot of people are using AI to come up with statement of work. A lot of people are using AI to capture minutes and things like that. And it is just that reminder. Yes, it's highly powerful, but also sometimes you've just got to.
Well, it's back to your.
Got to go back to the people.
A couple of weeks ago that a bit like if you use GPS a lot, you lose the ability to navigate. And all that. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
I think there's a problem that if you take the output from AI at face value and just use that as your answer, you've completely lost the practice of critical thought anyway, but also you might be passing on some absolute howlers that you don't actually agree with. Yeah. You've not considered both sides of the argument. So you're not learning anyway through the process. You're actually dumbing yourself down. Yeah. It's the opposite. So I think you're right. And you came up with that example on the statement of work one, that on the face of it, AI output looks very plausible until you go through it and you think, how would I receive
if you actually then put yourself in that, if you almost role play it in your head and go, right, and then we do this, and then we do this. Why would we do that? Because that doesn't follow logically, and that wouldn't build on what we've just done. And
crazy, isn't it?
But, I mean, we used to do a lot of four eyes, we used to call it, didn't we? Two people had to, or four cyclops, depending on who you got in the business.
Might not be cyclops, might just be a one-eyed man.
Could be pirates. But, two people at least had to read every document. And again, with AI, it's like,
there's a danger we're cutting the corners on
Sometimes I think more haste, less speed with some of these things.
Let me just rattle off a few other learning points from this experience, or these experiences that we've had this week. Liability. Quite often, liabilities are written in terms as open-ended. Well, you really are betting your farm if you ever sign up to that. You've got to have a limit on the liability. Now, there are some things that by law you can't limit, death and that sort of thing. But certainly from commercial costs, consequential damages, profit loss, you've got to protect yourself against reasonable amounts, at least limit it to maybe the fee for the work or some multiple thereof.
And as well, not just for you, but if you're looking to exit at some point as well, someone picking up all your contracts isn't going to want to take on all those liabilities.
Exactly. In due diligence process, they'll go through that a lot and think, you'll have to give me a warranty for that in case that comes back. So there's liabilities. Termination, often written one way around. That the the customer has the right to terminate on 30 days, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't give a provision at all for the supplier to terminate. Customers don't ever think a supplier would want to stop supplying. Well, hang on, excuse me. We've had plenty of occasions in the past where that's become a reality.
Yeah, no, we've done that.
Giving us false information or not complying with work or changing scope or keep people moving on, that sort of thing. So that's a bit worrying. There's also a clause on anti-disparagement. You're not allowed to say anything that brings the customer into disrepute. Now, that's very easy to agree to, right? You wouldn't want to do that publicly. But sometimes they're written so that you can't even give frank feedback internally, just the way it's drafted. It doesn't say public statements. It just says the supplier shall not make any statements that are critical of the company. Well, hang on, if you're a consultant, you're employed to be critical of the company.
Yeah, exactly,
So every time they ask you a question, well, I have to say something positive now because your contract tells me to. So it's just these little things that they don't realise that they've written. The confidentialities we've talked about, making sure that you don't try and do two jobs in the terms and conditions when you've already got an NDA. Same with DPA.
Mix them up.
And the other one, often they say you can't use subcontractors.
Yeah.
And small companies often use subcontractors, so we just have to have a reasonable decision about what it is you can do. So lots of learning about that, but I think the biggest one is review them in the first place and realise that the multiple agreements can all conflict with each other. But then is if you are sensible about it, you listen to what the AI says and then you properly read it and consider it from a human and using your wisdom and experience, does that reasonable to challenge? Actually, lots of customers will adapt and agree something. They do take them seriously. The larger the company, the more so, I think.
Yeah. No, there we go.
So in terms of conditions,
still awake.
Do you think? Well, maybe we should advertise this as the Insomniac's solution.
I had a good bit of banter with the client of the day about this, and he said,
"Can't sleep."
Well, he messaged in to say that he listens to the podcast, and I said, "Oh, okay, that's we know who it is."
You're the one.
He said, "Oh no, I don't listen. I just put it on to fall asleep."
That's even worse.
I was like, yeah, subliminal podcast. Gosh.
So now I'm about to thank everybody for listening. Maybe there's nobody listening at this point.
Yeah, you could be speaking into the void.
And it's just playing as they've gone to sleep because they had it on sleep timer. Because we're 33 minutes in now. They probably set it for half an hour, didn't they?
We're dreaming about bees and bats and I've been caught by a cat.
This cow brought in a
cheese
cat.
Dream or something.
So
anyway, before it gets too surreal.
If you are the one person that did make it to 33 and a half minutes through this podcast, then thank you very much for listening. That was another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you think somebody else needs some help to go to sleep, please forward them on the link. And in the meantime, good luck with your business.